Welcome to From the Quarries. Tonight's video, Jeshua, is another extract from the excellent History of Royal Arch Masonry by Everett R. Turnbull and Ray V. Denslow. I hope you enjoy it. Good evening and welcome to tonight's presentation, From the Quarries, an archive of Masonic lore. The character I have to talk about is Jeshua. Jeshua was the son of Josedek, born during the captivity at Babylon. He was the first high priest after the return, a fellow worker with Ezra and Nehemiah. It is written of him that he discharged his all-important duties with ability and faithfulness at a time of extreme difficulty and in the face of many perils. Jeshua undoubtedly had the reputation of being one of the greatest high priests of the Jewish hierarchy, but his reputation certainly did not rest on the spoken or written word. He was preached at and hectored or bullied by prophet and scribe, and intrigued against by his brethren, but not a single word of his, either in defence or attack, has come to us. In Masonry, and in many other institutions, actions are considered greater than words. Jeshua was essentially a man of action. Jeshua's family history was somewhat tragic, and there seems to be a vein of tragedy running through his life. His grandfather, the high priest when Jerusalem was captured and destroyed, was butchered by order of Nebuchadnezzar. His father was carried captive to Babylon. Jeshua was born in captivity. His upbringing was that of an exile, always tragic, especially to a Hebrew. But his life as an exile was not all tragedy. It was both interesting and stirring. Nebuchadnezzar was not only a great conqueror, a great destroyer, he was also a great builder and a patron of the arts. Jeshua probably saw the rebuilding of the magnificent royal palace and watched the construction of the famous Hanging Garden on its terraced platform, one of the 7 wonders of the world. He saw Babylon's culture carried far and wide and witnessed the birth of science and astrology. Later, he watched the rise of Cyrus, the all-conquering king of Persia, the defeat of the Babylonian hosts, and the entry in state into the city of Babylon. But always there must have been in his heart the longing to return to the land of his fathers. One can easily imagine that he hailed with joy the famous proclamation of Cyrus. "All the kingdoms of the earth hath the Lord God of heaven given me, and he hath charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Who is there among you of all his people? The Lord his God be with him, and let him go up." Jeshua would no doubt be inspired with fervency and zeal, and, as one of the leaders of the exiles, he joined the enormous caravan which set out for Judea, laden with gold and silver vessels of the temple and other valuable property restored to their rightful owners by order of the king. By Masonic tradition, we are told that, during the captivity, the Jews had continued the ceremonies of the fraternity and had several lodges, especially one at Nahada on the Euphrates. Therefore, no sooner had they arrived at their destination than they erected a temporary tabernacle and called a council in which Zerubbabel presided as king, Jeshua as high priest, and Haggai as scribe or principal officer of the state, and it was by them determined to begin to rebuilding the temple on the foundations of the structure of Solomon. Having arrived at Jerusalem, Jeshua naturally took a leading part, in conjunction with Zerubbabel, in the erection of the altar of burnt offerings and officiated as high priest. Thus began a brief period of triumph. Masons and carpenters were ordered to prepare the stones and timber for the building. About the beginning of the second year after the return, the foundation of the temple was laid by Zerubbabel, the Grand Master of the Jewish Masons, assisted by Jeshua the High Priest as senior Grand Warden, with great rejoicing and praise to God. As Royal Archmasons, we are naturally interested in the stories surrounding the preparation for and the foundations of the temple. Although not strictly related to the life of Jeshua, the story is too good to pass by, so here, briefly, is the legend of the foundation stone. According to legend, at that time, in the era of Jeshua, there was in the house of the sanctuary a stone of foundation, which is the very stone that our father Jacob anointed with oil, as is described in the 28th chapter of the book of Genesis. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place, and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. Following his famous dream, Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put for his pillows, and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of the city was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat, and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be God's house. And all of that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. The legend is that Adam possessed this stone while in the Garden of Eden. He used it as an altar, and carried it with him on his emergence into the world, and that Seth received it from him. Noah preserved it in the ark and left it on Mount Ararat, where Abraham found it. His grandson, Jacob, took it with him on his flight to his uncle Laban in Mesopotamia, and used it as a pillow when he had his celebrated vision near Luz. The history of the stone here becomes very indistinct, but one legend asserts that Jeremiah, escaping with a Jewish princess, took it to Spain. Thence it was brought to Ireland, and that one of the Dalraid kings conveyed it to Scotland, and finally it was transported by Edward I from Scone to Westminster Abbey, where until recently it was in that place as a coronation stone. However, returning to the subject of Jeshua. When the foundation stone was laid by Zerubbabel and Jeshua, it was a time of great rejoicing, and it is recorded that the weeping of those that recalled the glory of the former temple was drowned by the joyous shouts of the mass of the people. Jeshua's career thus reached its zenith, but soon the note of tragedy crept in yet again. Dissensions, plots, and many troubles supervened, and Jeshua was not permitted to see the completion of his great work. His closing days must have been sad. Family affairs were not all harmony. His sons had taken unto themselves strange wives, and were rebuked by the prophet Ezra. Even in the vision of Zechariah he appeared a tragic figure. He was pictured as clothed in filthy garments, accused before the Most High by Satan, but acquitted and given rule in Jehovah's house. Nevertheless, he was always an important figure, the high priest and ruler of the people. When the Jews brought offerings of gold and silver from Babylon, the prophet was ordered by the Most High to make crowns for Zerubbabel and Jeshua, and to place Zerubbabel as king on the throne and Jeshua by his side. The counsel of peace shall be between them both. Zerubbabel was enjoined to maintain good understanding with Jeshua. Finally, about 3 miles west of Baghdad, on the Euphrates Road, in a grove of trees, stands the shrine and tomb of Nabi Yusha, or Cohen Yusha. It is the sepulchre of Jeshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest. For more Masonic content, subscribe to this channel, visit our website, or follow us on Twitter or Facebook.